So you've decided to take the plunge and go after a career in the documentary filmmaking industry. Personally, I think that's a great call, and if you're interested in being creative and learning about the world, I think it's one of the best jobs out there. We're living in a golden age of documentary production, and there are more opportunities now than ever before. So how can you get in on that action, especially when you have no experience? Starting from scratch can be overwhelming, and it's not easy to figure out where you should start. You're probably not going to get hired as the director or the DP on your first job, but the good news is that there are other jobs on a doc crew where you can learn the ropes and start making contacts. And that's what we're going to get into in this video. 4 entry-level jobs in the documentary industry, what they do, and where they could lead down the road. Hey guys, welcome back, and if you're new here, my name is Luke Forsyth, and on this channel I teach the skills I've learned over 10 years working as a documentary filmmaker and photographer. Alright, so before we get into these different jobs, there's just a couple of things to get out of the way first. Right off the bat, for this video, I'm going to be talking about the documentary industry with a capital I, not the world of run and gun indie filmmaking. If you have an idea and a camera, you don't need anyone's permission. Just go out and do it. But as much as I encourage anyone to shoot passion projects, and there are even ways of funding them, the truth is, it's hard to make money this way. Like pay the rent, buy groceries kind of money. And if you want to stay in this game for the long term, you'll need to earn money somehow. So in this video, we're going to be talking about paid jobs, working as part of a crew on a project that probably isn't your idea. If you already have a job you like and just want to make your own stuff on the side, that's fantastic. Keep doing that. But if you want to get to a place where you're supporting yourself full-time from filmmaking, getting into the industry has worked well for me. And the bonus is that you're constantly learning how the best of the best out there are doing it. Then you apply those lessons to your own projects. It can be hard to get that kind of on-the-job training any other way, and for me that's one of the biggest advantages of going industry over just indie. The second thing I want to mention is that while all 4 of these jobs could be considered entry-level, it doesn't mean that everyone who does them is entry-level. Like all things, there are levels to the game, and there can be people who do these roles amazingly well and have 15 years of experience. It's kind of like how a line cook at McDonald's and a Michelin star chef both prepare food. Just because there are ground floor opportunities for these jobs does not mean that I'm saying anyone who does them is an amateur. Far from it. I have a friend who pulls focus on feature films and has been doing it for over 10 years, and he told me he has no plans to do anything else for the rest of his career. And I'm pretty sure he makes a lot more money than I do, even though I'm a DP and technically more senior. Okay, so now that I've covered my bases here, let's get into some of these different jobs and what they're all about. I'll start off with the one I'm most familiar with because it's what I did a lot of the time when I was starting out. When a production gets to the point where there's 2 or 3 cameras going at once, and even for some one camera shoots with lots of gear to manage, DPs and operators are going to need help keeping everything running. An AC or assistant camera does exactly that. In Hollywood, there are usually multiple ACs, with the first one pulling focus, the second one doing the slating, and the third helping with lenses or backing them up. In docs, where things move a lot faster and the operators usually pull their own focus, an AC is more of an all-round helper. I don't do much AC work anymore, but when I was just getting started, I did it all the time, and I learned so much from it. A documentary AC can do anything from setting up the cameras to changing lenses, dealing with the shot media, flying drones, or even running B or C cam in a pinch. It's a real jack of all trades position, and there is a lot to learn here, especially if you want to work your way up to being a shooter yourself. A good, reliable AC can be a massive help to a DP on a stressful shoot, and once a DP finds someone, they'll usually keep hiring the same person again and again. I use the same few people every time until they eventually get bumped up to operating full time, then I have to train someone all over again. ACing is the best place to start if you're most interested in shooting, and if you work hard and keep up relationships with producers and directors, it shouldn't take long to start getting jobs as an operator. My favorite AC here in Vancouver took about 2 years to start being hired regularly as an operator, and for me, I think it was about the same amount of time. But like I said, a good AC can be incredibly valuable, so by no means does this have to be a stepping stone for beginners. Do it well, and you can probably stay in this role and make some really solid money. You can get AC jobs in different ways, but probably the most common is by having a personal relationship with a DP. In a lot of cases, the DP will be able to suggest who they'd like to hire for this role, and it's pretty rare that they don't get what they want unless there's a budget or scheduling problem. I got my first AC jobs just by making friends with producers and DPs who then brought me onto shoots when they could. I've also had people reach out to me on social media and offer to AC for me, and I've actually gone on to hire them. That's not going to be possible all the time, and I'm not telling you to spam Instagram comments at DPs you like, but if you're interested in going this route, I'd suggest getting together a 1 to 2 minute show reel, making a list of all the DPs you might like to work with, and then reaching out to say hi. Some will ignore you, but if you keep at it and you aren't annoying, some will get back to you eventually. Then it's just a matter of being ready so that one of them finally takes you up on the offer, you can jump on it. You could also try joining filmmaking social media groups out there and introducing yourself. I've hired a stranger from Facebook at least once, so it's definitely not impossible. You just have to keep putting your name out there as much as you can until something clicks, and it will if you stick with it, I promise. Another job that exists on a lot of bigger documentary crews is a more general production assistant, or PA for short. Rather than just supporting the camera, a PA helps out the whole crew in any way they can. They're usually not technical specialists, so you wouldn't ask a PA to change your lenses or grab a quick drone shot for you, though I'm sure there are lots of PAs out there who could. Instead, a PA would work more closely with the producer and director to take on any task that makes their lives easier. That could be grabbing lunch for the crew, calling up the next location to double check availability, helping to load and unload gear, pretty much anything. PAing can be a great way to learn the ropes of how a doc crew works and develop relationships with producers and directors who can hire you again. I'd say that PAing makes the most sense if you're interested in those two jobs rather than the camera, because if you want to shoot, trying to get hired as an AC makes more sense. A PA will be able to watch every stage of the process, and that is definitely valuable information to bring to your own projects. And if you work hard and maintain your relationships, you might be able to get bumped up to producer or production manager down the line. There are a ton of ways you could try and get PA jobs. You could try making a list of production companies and approaching them directly, or by joining online groups. Here in Canada, where I live, there's the Facebook group called I Need a Producer, Fixer, Crew that has separate groups for different countries, and I've seen lots of people find jobs that way. So for me, I'd request to join the Canada Edition group and then make a post introducing myself and check back regularly to see if anyone's put up a request for a PA in your area. The third option is sort of like a PA, but a little more specialized to a region. It's called a fixer. A fixer is someone who's hired specifically to open doors in a particular location, usually when the crew is from somewhere else and might not speak the language or understand how things work. So like when I lived in Mexico and crews would fly in from the US to shoot shows about the drug trade, you can't just roll up to a dangerous area and start filming. The solution is to hire a fixer who has contacts in that world, and they would negotiate access on behalf of the production. So when the crew arrived, everything was arranged. Fixing can be a really great entry job, especially if you live outside the major production hubs like New York or LA, or if you speak other languages or have access to a specific subculture. Pretty much every time a crew is flying to another country to do work, odds are there'll be a fixer on the ground waiting. And don't think just because you don't live somewhere exotic that you can't be a fixer, because wherever you're from, there are film crews who are not from there. Like, I live in Canada, which seems like a simple place to work for me, but if you're flying in from the UK with a crew of 10, hiring a fixer to arrange everything in advance makes perfect sense. Fixers are more like local producers than PAs. When I was working on Dangerous Stories in Mexico, the fixers were the only reason that we were able to shoot anything, and they deserve a ton of credit for what they do. If you do it well, fixing can lead to producer jobs and can pay very well, especially if you have access to things that people are interested in filming. If you're interested in this, I'd post to that same Facebook group, but also consider making a website with a name that's specific to the region you want to fix in. Like if you live in, I don't know, Texas, try and buy texasproductionfixer.com or texasmoviefixer.com or something like that. Everyone in the industry uses the word fixer, and if you can rank on Google for these terms, I think you'd start getting calls before too long. There's also a website called needafixer.com where you could make a profile, and even something like LinkedIn might work here. Just get your name and location with the word fixer beside it out there as much as possible. Last but not least is a job that focuses more on the post-production side of things rather than the shooting itself. DIT, or DIT, stands for Digital Imaging Technician, and the term originates from narrative movies where they're usually the person who ingests media on set and applies LUTs and color correction for the DP to look at, so everyone can be sure the shots are coming out the way they want them to. On documentaries, a DIT doesn't do so much grading in the field, and they take more of a media manager role, but we often call them DITs anyways. Who knows why? Documentaries can shoot dozens of hours of footage a day, and after a 12-hour shoot and 3 cameras, asking the DP to do the backups can be a recipe for a disaster, like a lost card or an accidentally wiped drive. A DIT makes sure that all the footage is safely backed up, and might also produce dailies with the different cameras synced together for the DP and director to watch. That way they can see some of the highlights of what they got that day and make plans for what they still need. A DIT is a luxury, and not all shoots have them, but I'm always happy when there's one around because it's one less thing I have to worry about at the end of a long day. DITs generally travel with the crew, but they don't typically go into the field for the actual shoots. Normally they'd stay behind in a hotel because they need a computer to work, and then catch up with the crew for dinner when they get back. Going down along this path is a good choice for someone who might be interested in the post-production side of the business, and it could easily lead to editing or color correction or other post-production supervisor jobs in the future. In a Hollywood setting, getting this job isn't so easy, and I think most of the time you need to be in a union. But for docs, it's a much simpler job, and you basically just need to be good with computers and have strong attention to detail. You absolutely cannot lose track of which cards have been backed up and which haven't, and even losing one shot will be a big problem. But as long as you can stay organized and learn whatever backup and syncing software the production is using, it's pretty straightforward. If I were thinking about becoming a DIT, first I'd familiarize myself with the most common backup programs like Shotput Pro, plus some sort of audio syncing and dailies creation software like Pluralize and Frame.io. A quick Google of DIT important software will give you plenty of ideas, and the more you can list on your resume, the better your odds of getting hired. I've never actually done this job myself, but I'd guess that approaching documentary production companies directly would be a good way to go here, and I know that sometimes they even employ DITs full-time, unlike the rest of the crew who are generally freelancers. And there we go, 4 entry-level jobs for people who want to get into the documentary business but don't know where to start. Like I said, just because they can be a good starting place to learn the ropes, there are lots of people who become specialists in these roles and go on to have long and lucrative careers doing them. So if you start on one of these and it feels like a good fit, you might even want to stay where you are. Stack up a bunch of experience and credits, and these jobs can pay really well. And the whole time you'll be learning how things work at a high level so you can steal ideas for your own projects. Hope that video was helpful and gave you some ideas for possible first jobs in the documentary industry. If you have other ideas for first jobs on set, let me know in the comments. And if you liked that video, maybe check out this one I made about how I got my first job for National Geographic. See ya.